And you're taking a live look at this scene we brought you a little bit earlier. Eastway and Kilborne. It's been that tree you see right there has been causing some real traffic issues. You see the cars kind of backed up there in the distance. They are getting along on what I believe is just one lane now at this point. But now crews have arrived to try to make a difference here. And they're at work.
Yeah, they're really hard at work. I mean, they're really trying to cut this tree down to kind of open that roadway back up. As you actually look just behind the saw, you can actually see some of the cars starting to kind of pile up just behind that work there. We know, Chris, you mentioned that earlier, as people kind of start to get on the roadway in that area specifically, that traffic would start to slow down, would start to pick up out there.
And I think the real cool thing is right here, it's actually going to clear pretty quickly. So they're going to cut off some of the branches. That makes it pretty easy. But then with that lift that you're going to see there, they're going to be picking up a lot of the larger branches. So this is actually going to clear a little bit quicker than you think. So really the strategy here is they're cutting out the branches. This truck is going to be lifting those out of the way. So once they get the branches out of the way, then they'll really start cutting in pieces really from what lanes that are blocked further towards the sidewalk. So that'll open up one lane. They'll move the barrels over, likely open up the other lane, and then they'll slowly start to remove this. Now, the one lane that you see closest to the sidewalk, of course, is going to stay closed the longest because they're going to have to be able to remove everything from there as well. So yeah, you can see that they're cutting the base. That's going to be step number one. And then again, they're going to cut all the branches that are be coming from this as well. So typical storm damage removal. And there's still really no timeline of when this fell because it really wasn't a traffic issue through the end. But look at how much they actually just took off. There it is. Just as we mentioned, seeing the top of the tree that was blocking at least that second lane closer to the turn lane now being removed over now onto the sidewalk. They're moving really quickly here. I was saying, hey, they should be fully done in about an hour. It might even be less than that.
I was going to say, that's really impressive how quick they got out there to kind of clear that roadway up. We just saw that congestion just immediately once that tree and branch got picked up. Just, roads started moving up really, really quick there.
And you're going to see actually the flow of traffic pretty much double here now that they're already almost done with that. And you can see that secondary cut that they're going to be cutting this up into segments, and they'll cut smaller segments that comes from there. So it actually might be the slowest part of Eastway Drive is right now as they're actively doing this. People, of course, going to be slowing down to see what's going on. They're hearing it up the road, just the power of these chainsaws. And look at how fast they're really going. This is actually the first time I've actually sat and watched this. It's actually pretty fascinating.
Chris, I'm curious, whenever we have a storm, we talk about the saturated ground, and that creates an ease for those trees to fall over and create things like this. And we did see some rain in our area yesterday. But what do you think is to blame for something like this happening? And what advice do you have for folks at home who don't want to see this happen, in their yard?
Well, I'm going to jump in right here. That is not a healthy tree.
Mm-mm.
That's why they can saw through it so quickly. That's very dry internally. That's a major problem among the trees here in the Queen Cities. A lot of those trees are not healthy, and it doesn't take much for them to go down. So some of the saturated soil, a little bit of breeze that we had yesterday, that's probably what that went down. But that tree is not healthy.
Yeah, and whenever you see that, it's almost like fresh wood right there. It shouldn't look like that.
No.
That snap, that's really brittle, and this also is kind of a concern too, because oftentimes you can tell from the top this is dying out, but you can't really see at the base of this. It really wasn't showing signs of wear at the top, but that's also a big problem that we have along here that you don't realize that you might not have a healthy tree, but there's other signs that come along with
and
it.
you can have growth on a tree, but yeah, we kind of zoom in. Thanks, Pierre, for doing that. You can see just drying out right there. Root system not good at all, and it's so dry. That's why, man, they can just go through with those chainsaws and just cut it out in a few minutes, and they do a great job. Those crews out there. But once again, if you have a tree like that in your yard, you may want to have it checked out by a tree expert, because those things can go down. I've definitely seen it happen in my own situation. They can go down and do a lot of damage, and there are a lot of trees obviously in the Charlotte area.
And oftentimes when it's a big storm event, if it's a healthy tree, you're seeing the entire root system at the bottom of that. That thing just completely gave way. And wind gusts yesterday were, there was some 30 pluses across the area,
we had
so that was enough.
30, 35 mile an hour wind gusts. Luckily things have calmed down today, not expecting windy conditions, but the more wind we have, and you live in an area with a lot of trees, and some of those trees are older. That tree right there is probably about 30, 35 years old. And even older trees, once you get into some of the older neighborhoods, Myers Park neighborhood has some trees that are 125 years old, and they've reached their peak existence time, and luckily they're staying up. But yeah, that tree right there, it's good they got that down. It did not do a lot of damage.
Well,
Oh, yeah. It fell
zoom
in the
out
right
here
direction.
zoom out here for us, guys, because we're in rush hour traffic, and those cars are starting to get along there. But is it creating a larger impact on the roads, Chris?
I wouldn't really say that the traffic is too bad comparatively. Now, this is still a busy road, don't get me wrong, but since they put up those barrels that you can see a little bit further up the road, things have come together. When there was no barrels, people were kind of fighting to see who was going to go first, so at least we're seeing a little bit better of a single file. Still not good, don't get me wrong, because technically 2 lanes are blocked, and Eastway at this section heading southbound towards Central is a 2-lane highway. They're actually just using the turn lane mainly around Kilborne, and it's actually going to be pretty cool, Larry. They're going to be picking up those big segments that they just cut that into, so they're moving really fast.
They're doing a great job right there, and you know, we can be thankful, and those people who live in that neighborhood can be thankful that it did not do any damage. Certainly with all the traffic and all the people there, it could have been a catastrophe, it could have been a disaster, and luckily we got those crews know exactly what they're doing. They're experienced, and they're getting that tree out of there quickly.
And you have to realize, and this is kind of like a scope into a severe weather event cleanup, is they have to be fast. Because oftentimes when we have a big, strong thunderstorm or tornadoes move through, you have sometimes hundreds of these type of events, so they can't linger. And you're seeing the process here of how quickly they can usually clean things up. Like I would say that I wouldn't be surprised if most of this is clear, at least one of the lanes is opened up by the 8 o'clock hour.
You know, you can tell once again they got through this very quickly. That tree pretty much is dried out in the center there, and not a healthy tree. The tree right there, it's you can see in the background. Wouldn't be surprised that's not in the same condition.
Oh yeah, you can see it.
Trees. Some of these trees, their peak existence is about 30, 35 years. Now, some of the older trees in the older neighborhoods can live up to about 100, 125 years. But you know, you get to about 35, 40 years, that's peak time for some of those trees, especially in that neighborhood right there.
Spring's a good time for you to clean up in general, but that's actually a good way to look at it, because right now, look at your trees. Some of these, now coniferous trees are a little bit different, but if you have any ones that do have leaves, like that one that we're seeing off in the distance, if you see a bunch of trees around that have the buds, and then all of a sudden one does not, that's a good sign that, hey, this isn't doing as well. And it might be a late bloomer, but if it's doing that, that might mean that something is wrong. So this is kind of like maybe a good reminder, check your trees, people, because this was a fortunate situation. There could have been a car parked there, there could have been somebody driving by, or it could have went the other way into one of the houses. So maybe this is a good reminder.
You know, if I was one of the folks who's living in the houses, I'd ask, because these guys have a lot of experience, they're tree experts, and just say, what do you think about this tree right here, the one that you can see to the left? Doesn't look that healthy, and you know, you may want to have it checked out. You know, we all have, because we live in the city of trees, we all have trees in our yards and nearby. It's always good to have those things checked out.
I was waiting for one of the big chunks.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
They have it down to a science. Once again, Chris was saying that these crews are very experienced. They deal with all this all the time, and they got through that very quickly. So this is going to be clear. Still, the traffic's still a bit slow in the background there.